Honestly, I still have a hard time calling myself a composer because I'm like, that sounds so lofty. Like I'm not, it's such a big word, composer. I mean, my mother tells people I'm a composer.
The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
What's all these fuzzies? Are those mics? No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God, those are amazing. I love them.
Feel free to pet them. With kind of the Superman world, like Superman has had such kind of an iconic sound since John Williams in the 1970s, but Supergirl doesn't have that. So how did you approach this? Yet. Supergirl is now has this.
Yes, thank you.
But how did you approach having the history of that and giving Supergirl her own sound?
So it's funny, someone just asked me that on the last episode. It was really, I think it was so, when Craig was first talking about this, it was really, really important to them and to me that she have her own musical stamp, her own motif, her own musical identity. So that was really, the first scene I did on it was, it grew out of, they loved this scene that I had scored. I mean, this was a very short time frame we had as well. I didn't have, the benefit of a huge amount of time, which was good or bad, depending on how you look at it. So I wrote a theme for her and they loved it, and then I had orchestrated it in a couple of different ways. It worked really well, one being the scene you just saw, one being another scene later on in the movie where she's, kicking ass. And I think just the question is how important was it, right? Or what was the question again?
Kind of giving Supergirl
her own identity.
Her own identity.
I think it's absolutely paramount. I associate the theme every time. It's simple. It's so effective. It's so indicative of him. You don't even have to have. You the minute you hear it. But we've also listened to it for 30 years or whatever it is. So it has been kind of drummed into us to a great degree. Like in 1970, whatever, when that came out, we'd never heard it before. So it maybe took 10 years for that to be like, okay, that's it. That's the nail. That's the deal right there. So we'll see if this sticks with it. I think it's paramount. I associate all these iconic superheroes with iconic soundtracks, with Star Wars. I mean, like the rhythm of it, the military sort of marches of it, and the love themes in it. It's totally inseparable for me. But I'm a musician, so I'm not going to speak at it from a visual standpoint. But to me, music imprints just as much as visual does, and it's such a shorthand. For me, music is such a shorthand, and also kind of does what words can't. You can play a theme and you immediately know where you're sort of going with things. You're immediately brought into the world of what that is, and that's, to me, is the magic of what we do.
My favorite thing about the movie is that she's got all the powers. We know she's got all the powers. It's hard to develop the stakes in an action scene, but she's either impaired or she's operating without her powers. She's drunk. How do you create the action scene that has that extra element to it?
I think when we were doing it in the arc of the character, like the main theme doesn't actually play properly in its full iteration and its full glory until you see her pretty close to the end when she comes out of the water and she's in the suit. She's no longer impaired on any level. She's not being poisoned. She's not drunk. But she's found her meaning and purpose, and that's really when it plays, because that was the moment of impact when she comes out of the water and she's found her direction, she's found what it is that's important to her, and she's found the sort of purity that sort of Superman has in his quest. You see it in her in that scene. So that's why there was a more hinting toward the theme. There's more sad versions of the theme. There's sort of less orchestrated versions of it. It's much more degraded. There's much more motif. We would use motif rather than a full statement, and that's to a great extent why it was held off until that sort of statement piece where she comes out of the water, she goes in, she saves Ruthie, and then she goes in to save the brides.
Can you talk about any musical Easter eggs that reference possible either previous DCU films or like the Superman films you were talking about that are so integral to our culture?
There are a couple, like in this, there's a couple of little flute. It was, you can barely hear it, but there was some rhythmic flute stuff that was in there. Obviously in that, there's an end scene where they're in Clark's apartment, and that's got a very vague reference to Superman's theme, and then they come together, they're kind of swimming together at the end there. There wasn't time on this to really go into doing some super sort of under the scenes stuff because we were so sort of pressed for getting everything done, getting it all sealed and delivered. But yeah, that's a lovely idea. I love that.
Supergirl is going in this movie through a lot of trauma, a lot of emotional weight through that. How did you musically kind of evolve that process?
I think that's what we went from, like a sort of synth and guitar world where you see her kind of messy and she's kicking ass and all the rest of it. And then once we hear the Argo sequence and the Argo story, and there's a lot more orchestration involved, I feel like it filled out the color of what that was. And we had a sort of a statement of her theme in the minor, when she's taking off from Earth. We just saw it. Which was kind of establishing the theme. You hadn't heard the theme before then, but it's kind of giving it to you with a slightly different perspective on it. So taking it from there, and then when we go out, then we get into action stuff, and then that was the evolution of it. Like as she's becoming who she's meant to be within the arc of the story, I hope that the music would follow that. Starting with the sequential stuff and the guitars, and then moving into more orchestration, and then the hints of it, and then finally the sort of statement at the end. That's what the intent was.
At what point in your life did you know that this is what I wanted to do with the rest of my life? Was it a movie, was it a show, or a video game?
What you mean, composing?
Yeah.
Honestly, I still have a hard time calling myself a composer because I'm like, that sounds so lofty. Like I'm not, whatever, Sibelius, it's such a big word, composer. But I think I'm so lucky to be able to, I still say I write music for films and TV. I mean, my mother tells people I'm a composer because she was but I'm saying that's what I say now, because I don't know that in my own heart that I've sort of gotten to, that sort of grandiose level, but I always wanted to make music. I've always wanted to make music since I was a little kid. I was writing songs and little musicals when I was a kid. And, I've had some sidebars on the way. I joined bands, I've played on other people's records. And then when we got our first, what was really a devastating point for me, I was on a label here, everything went to crap, and then we got our first TV show. So it was like this lemons out of lemonade situation, and we worked with Alan Hughes, who's one of the greatest, to my mind, just fantastic directors, and he gave us our first show, which is show Touching Evil. So then I saw this whole other doorway open, and I was in my 20s, and I was like, okay, I could see, and actually I just told Michael Giacchino, like, I went to do an orchestration session, and they took us to one of his sessions on Lost. And I remember going, oh wow, like this is everything I've wanted to do, was like, you can go in and you can make sound on things and you can talk to people and like, hey, try this, and it was exciting to me. And it was incredibly generous of him to allow these students to just kind of come in and, hear his session. I'm not letting students in on my session, but, so that was wonderful. And I hoped I'd be able to make it work, And I worked for many years as part of a team because I had kids and all the rest of it. And it's difficult to really, give yourself over to something when you've got other responsibilities. And it's it's not like work just comes, there's probably 1,000 composers. If you swing a cat, you're going to hit a few composers. So everybody, a lot of people make music. So I feel incredibly fortunate to be working. But I always wanted to make music. That was my big dream.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right.
Names to the left, they are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.